guys excited to be here?
Yes, ma'am.
My name is Adrienne Texa. I'm the Colorado State Coordinator. It is my absolute pleasure to introduce to you your Unit 6 judges. Congratulations on making it to Nationals.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. Please be seated. So, you're Unit 6.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, that's good. We're in the right place. A little worried there. On the other hand, Adrienne Evans suggested you wouldn't have brought it. So, we're doing question number 2. And could you tell us who you all are, please?
My name is Jamie Fleury, and I'm a sophomore at St. Charles in Maryland.
Hi, I'm Sarah McCoy. I'm a sophomore at St. Charles in Maryland.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi, I'm Anthony, and I am a sophomore at St. Charles High School, and our teachers here today are Mr. Colatruglio, Ms. Ressler, and Mr. Reed.
Hi, welcome. Well, I'm from Maryland, so I'm very happy to be here today. So, to my right.
Hi, I'm Tom Vance. I'm from Kansas State University and looking forward to a great conversation this afternoon.
And to my left.
Good afternoon. My name is Nan Waller. I am a circuit court judge, a trial judge from Portland, Oregon.
And my name is Candida Steele, and I'm retired as a judge on the U.S. Civilian Board of Contract Appeals, and I handle government contract disputes around the country. And I'll read the question now to let everybody in the room know what we're going to be talking about. Julius wrote in Federalist 51, quote, "A dependence on the people is, no doubt, the primary control on the government," end quote. Fair and frequent elections are the foundation of democratic republics, where the people have the ultimate control of their government. The people select the person they wish to serve in public office on their behalf. How fair is our electoral system? To what extent does it provide for political equality and majority rule? What improvements, if any, would you make in our electoral system? What are the benefits and costs of our plurality/majority system compared with proportional systems? What are some examples of current attempts to make our system more fair? Explain what position you support regarding these attempts. You may begin.
We, the people, concur that our American electoral system is adequately fair to both the people and elected officials. The general populace is capable of putting forward their interest for researching about politicians with publicly available information and then voting for their preferred candidates. Although this information can be tainted, knowledge is more available than ever alongside verifiable fact-checking. In this modern society that we live in, there are millions more Americans than in early colonial times. The amount of people per state varies greatly and leads to either greater or diminished representations for states. Although, just because a state has a lower amount of representatives, that does not mean that local and state governments are not run by the people. American citizens can choose to vote for who they want, and whatever majority party that receives enough votes will win. In this case, majority rule by the people is still present as a general concept for American politics and policies. In a sense, American political equality exists if categorized into the two primary political parties that most voters fall under. When considering third parties, there is no political equality or equity because there are not enough voters or promotions for these parties to succeed. Thus, majority rule is preserved over complete equality, and there are many theoretical changes that could take place to the electoral system. However, two of the most important of these changes would be to either add additional representatives in the House or Senate, or to educate voters on how our government actually functions. If these hypothesized changes were proven to be successful, we would implement them into the current U.S. congressional system.
The plurality/majority system is where the candidate that gathers the most votes in the constituency or through the Electoral College wins the election, ever since the system was created in the late 1700s. This system was created to make sure that the majority was heard. Of course, this also means that something is neglected. Oftentimes, the constituency side of the majority system is neglected. The Electoral College takes the final vote and seemingly decides who the president is. This originally was because the founding fathers in charge of making the voting system thought the common populace was uneducated in the ways of politics. This was one of many reasons the majority system is flawed. Even through this flawed system, the majority tries to make themselves heard through the Electoral College, which is selected by the people. in hopes that they will make the right decision for the populace.
In recent years, there has been many attempts to make the voting system more fairer, like in the late 1800s with the women's suffrage movement, which encouraged women to vote, and in the 1950s to 60s with the civil rights movement. In many states, let's use Florida as an example, they have legislation to give the ability to vote to felons, except for murderers and sex offenders. In the 1960s, the country asked itself, if young men can die in Vietnam, then shouldn't they be trusted with the right to vote? Now, we must ask ourselves the same question. If 16 and 17-year-olds can contribute to society through work and face criminal justice system as adults, isn't it only reasonable to allow them the right of self-determination through voting? Many states now in the United States have voted to lower the voting age, one of which being our state of Maryland, which has allowed minors to vote at the age of 16 as opposed to 18. Many other states such as California, Washington State, and Ohio have all passed such legislation.
Okay. Do you want to start? Okay.
Today, state and local municipalities are responsible for running elections. Should elections be run by the national government? Why or why not?
Well, I believe that these elections should be run by the national government because it ensures that these elections will probably receive more funding and more security than if they were run by state governments. And it would helpfully and hopefully ensure that most, or if not all, votes are counted correctly.
I would like to disagree with my colleague. I believe that having local elections and municipality being controlled by the national government, I feel like that would take the power away from the people and give it to the government.
Well, I'd like to disagree with Anthony and agree with Jamie and say that I do believe that the national government should fund these votings because I think that the state might try to manipulate or change the voting system to gain more votes or to sway it towards what they want.
The federal government would or the state government?
The state government.
What core American political principles support or are in conflict with the ways in which we elect United States senators?
Could you rephrase the question, please?
Sure. We elect senators 2 per state. Some people are for that, some people are against it. What core American political principles are connected to the way that we do things now, or maybe changing that system?
Well, in the national government now, we have a bicameral government in Congress. We have both the House, which has elective representatives from each state based on population size, and then in the Senate we have 2 per state to make sure that it is equal across all states.
And for the powers of mixed government and federalism, even not relating this to Congress itself, but to local governmental units, the people still have the power to vote for who they want and to take control of their state governments.
How does federalism fit into the way in which we elect senators?
Well, in Federalist 51, which is mentioned in the question, it has to do a lot with checks and balances in the government. So I feel as if the Federalist Papers are sort of the heart and soul of the Constitution and how we run government.
What do you think we should do to ensure the security of our election system, our voting system? That's been a topic in the news lately. Do you have any suggestions of how we can secure our voting systems? That, you may also say that it's being done, but what's your reaction?
Well, I believe that we should create stricter laws for it because some people can manipulate the voting system in a way that helps them and benefits them instead of doing it the way that our 4 founding fathers wanted it to be done.
Can you think of examples of how it could be manipulated?
I would like to add on. In many states such as Pennsylvania and North Carolina and Maryland even, there is gerrymandering within the states to give an edge to a certain political party. Like I know in Maryland, it gives an edge to the Democratic Party as opposed to being a fairer system.
Okay. And how about, so that would go to the security of the election system,
Yes.
you think? Yeah.
Do we hold elections too frequently?
Well, yes and no. Yes, because more frequent elections mean that they have to push elections further and further and more frequently, which makes it less secure, meaning somebody could manipulate the elections if we don't put them so far apart that we can make sure that this election is more secure than that election and keep building upon that security until it can't be tampered with. Just like the 2016 election between Trump, people thought that maybe Russia tampered with the election, and it could have been possible because it's so frequent. But at the same time, we didn't really do much about it.
Do you have suggestions on what, given your concern about the frequency and what that does in terms of security, what would the solution be?
The solution would definitely be to have more people monitor the elections. As in, people walk into elections, they go in frequently, yes, and nobody really checks as frequently to see who's coming in, who's changing this. And another thing is, social media also influences elections through influencing the populace to vote for this person instead of that person, because you can get information at a snap of a finger or anything like that. So I believe that another way we could do that is to monitor social media a little bit more frequently through elections, just to make sure it's not manipulating the populace or changing the vote in any way that it would normally be.
Okay.
You mentioned in your opening statement that our system was adequately fair, but that the Electoral College was flawed. And I would have liked to have heard more about that, but we're out of time.
That would have been a good one to
It
follow.
would have been a really
Thank you
good
so
one,
much.
and you would have been prepared.
I had a great response for you.
I bet you did, Anthony. I bet you did. And Jamie and Sarah, I bet you all could have talked about that.
Great, we're gonna have a little feedback. Andy, you
I
wanna make some
am
comments?
very impressed, and I will say that none of you are, of course, Maryland. I understand that you may have in some elections a lower voting age than the rest of the country or much of the country, but you will be good voters, and more than that, I'm impressed that your knowledge will put you in a good position to be good citizens. I liked the fact that you had the ability to be specific when asked about what are some of the reasons behind your positions. It was a logical presentation. I'm on the bench a lot and every day, and I look for arguments that are clear what the argument is, the position, and then that people go through and support their position, both with facts and the law. And so, well done.
I thought it was an excellent presentation. I even liked the adequately fair terminology because, you know, our system of government is not perfect. In fact, the founders made it clear that they weren't striving for utopia. And they also said that they were striving to create a more perfect union, not the perfect union, but a more perfect union. And which seems to lead me to believe that every generation then has a responsibility to continue to perfect our union. What you just demonstrated and what you will take away from this weekend and your experiences here in We the People is vitally important, not only for your future, but for all of our futures. And what you've really learned is a way of constitutional thinking. You've learned a way to look at a problem that has been with us from the beginning and will be with us, is with us today, and will be with us for a long time into the future, and you have a sound approach to it. I commend you, I commend your teachers for preparing you so well. Fantastic job.
And thank you so much. I'm glad to see you all again, and very glad to be from Maryland. You did a very nice job, as I also wrote down, adequately fair. That's a wonderful phrase. I'm going to remember that and use it in the future. I hope you've really enjoyed this experience, because it certainly has been fun for me to hear all of you. And I hope you're inspired to pay more attention now that you have a good foundation of what being a citizen is all about. And certainly Unit 6 is especially about being a citizen. And I think you've done a really nice job of showing that you've learned what you need to do to go tell the rest of your families and friends what your opinion is, and well enough to persuade them. So thank you very much. I trust that you will study issues down the road and act thereon. And if this takes you down the road to some political or legal field, all the better. And I'm sure I said this last time I saw you, but if I'm sitting in my rocking chair at the nursing home, I'm going to feel a whole lot better knowing all of you know so much more than those in my own generation have known. So, well, thank you. Very well done.